Hello, everybody. This is Dragyn, and we're back in the Dragon's Den. Pull up a seat, grab a drink of your choice. We have everything on the table, even the adult drinks. uh,
Ooh.
I am Dragyn, and we are back with some more anime. Our maybe last episode of anime. I'm not sure. I always have ideas when we do this, but I'm welcoming Spam to this one again. Hello.
Hi, yes, I am back again, guys. Hopefully you have not missed me or have missed me from the 2.5 hour podcast episodes that we had about anime.
We've had 5 hours of Spam and I. Oh boy,
Oh my,
that's a
we have
lot.
like a whole day show.
Yes, run us on PBS all day long. No, just don't.
Hey.
Um, we are here though today to talk about um, our experiences with anime in regards to like the stigma around it. Because in our time, we're both the same age. Well, he's a year older than, well, a few months older than I am, but
Just a few months, yeah.
just a few months. We're both the same age, and we both have experienced like the different shifts and waves that we've seen with anime over the years.
Right.
So we're gonna have just a nice little conversation. Hopefully, not a 2.5 hour conversation. We'll see how this goes.
Let's see, honestly, because we're very good at like rambling and just talking about it. And no lie, like we've had like every almost like I'd say every season, whenever a season ends in anime, we always end up talking about like the past of like how we've like managed to like watch certain animes, how some things have gotten better, maybe some have gotten worse
Log
and
Horizon.
whatnot. Yeah, that just happened just a couple minutes ago at the time of this recording. But just like talking about like how a lot of animes have progressed throughout the years and like that, and now noticing just like how more and more people are actually getting into anime. It's like becoming more of a mainstream thing compared to legitimately a decade ago, like back in the early
Yeah,
2010s. Like, geez, and even then, like even like way before that, it's like, hell, let's go all the way to the beginning, right?
yeah. Good transition. Back to the beginning. So we're gonna just kind of go back and forth a little bit. We're not gonna necessarily follow a strict format this time around. We're just kind of
Like,
naturally
yes, like
talking about it.
strict.
Yeah. So I'll start with me because I have a crazy sort of like up and down like wave of anime and things like that. Because I remember when I was younger, when like my sister and I would be watching Pokemon, all those shows. We didn't know really that that was called anime. We kind of just chalked it up as cartoons because that's what our parents called them, really. It was like,
That's
oh, they're
honestly
watching their
understandable.
cartoons, they're just watching their kids' shows, that kind of thing. And that's all we saw it as was kids' shows for the longest time. And that was pretty much all of that between my sister and I for the longest time. And then cue us in school. But we didn't hear the word anime at school either. It was never really brought up in that way. We were just like, we were always referring it to TV shows. Like, oh man, did you watch that episode of like Futurama or Pokemon or Sailor
Like
Moon,
by
Card
the name rather
Captors?
than the genre, right? Or the style.
Yeah, and like we literally chalked all of that together, by the way. Like Pokemon Futurama, like Sailor Moon 16, all of that. Like we just clumped it all together as like, we watch these things kind of thing. There was
Right.
never a separation of cartoon, anime, or genres for us growing up. So I didn't really know it was anime until bowling camp summers, really, which makes me sound like the biggest nerd ever. But I was in a bowling league, a youth bowling league, growing up for quite a long time, since the age of like 4 till, oh man, like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I got into when I was older for about I think 11 till 14 or 15, I think it was. Yeah, 11 to 15. I went to the 10 to 15 because I got my first laptop at 11. Anyway, that's a different story.
Ooh.
I saved up a lot of money. No, that was 13. So yeah, 11 to 15, 13, middle of the yeah. Anyway, timelines and things. Bowling camp. Anyway, so what made bowling camp stand out
Okay.
to me, yeah, always a digression with me. There was, whenever it was held in Edmonton, so the city I'm in currently, we were always seemed to be booked up at the university here, and half the university was dedicated to us bowlers who were here to learn and develop our bowling skills, of course, and for a scholarship tournament. The other half was for all of these people dressed up as our favorite cartoon characters, air quotes. And so it was so wild to me because I remember waking up the morning of first day, gotta get up at like 6:30 in the morning, get in, shower, get our stuff ready to go, and be downstairs for breakfast at like 7. Lo and behold, as we left for the lanes, outside the main courtyard at this university were a ton of people dressed up as your favorite characters from all of those shows. I saw many Ash Ketchums. I saw a few like different Sailor Scouts, Card Captor Sakura. There was many of these people dressed up, and lots of Pokemon. Hell yeah, Pokemon! And we also had. I remember seeing a few Yu-Gi-Ohs from Yu-Gi-Oh too at that time, which is great because that crazy hairstyle, beautiful.
Just scream, it's time to duel. Anyways.
Absolutely. And it was so funny because I was like, what are all these people here for? Like, they're dressed up as my favorite, like, show characters. Because, again, even still then, I did not know it was anime. And
Right.
I was getting excited. I wanted to go talk to them because I was like, I want to know more about this. But everyone around me at bowling camp was like, no, don't be that nerd. Don't be like them. Don't be like that geek. Boom, judgment right there. Even at like 10, 11 years old. Being told that you were going to be a geek, a nerd, or a loser for going to go talk to those people.
Dang, really?
Yeah. And so I always had it in me to be like, okay, well, I can only talk to my friends that have Pokemon cards about Pokemon kind of thing, or Yu-Gi-Oh cards about Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, my friends that had these cards, they were the only ones I could talk to because that's what it felt like growing up. Anyone else that tried to talk to about it, they're like, yeah, some kid show. I'm like, no, it's really cool though. Like, look at this card. People look the other way. And that definitely was quite an experience I had for a couple of years at bowling camp. Just, again, noticing these people, not knowing where they're from, what they're doing, what they're here for, why are they dressed up? It's not Halloween, it's like August. I don't get it. But then I saw a poster, and this was around age 13 when I got my first laptop, no big deal. But when I finally saw the poster for the event, and lo and behold, it was my city's animeathon. That was when I first saw the word written clearly and visible on a poster somewhere going animeathon.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I don't know what anime is, but like there's Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Sailor Moon, Card Captors, Digimon, all these things that I recognize. So I was like, cool, they're all part of this animeathon. Sweet. Then I totally dropped that for quite a while because after that, life got a little tumultuous with childhood things and such for quite a bit. But yeah, that was my first instance though of realizing, oh, these particular shows and characters and style that I've been watching compared to the other style, like, on Teletoon Network and such like that. Two different things. It was then that I clued into that. I'm like, oh, those are cartoons. These are anime. It was such a weird thing because it was really hard to understand, and I think I only clearly understood the difference like recently when I met him, with Daryl, because
I.
I think for some reason my brain I kept like clumping it all together as just one thing. Even when I saw the two different words, I was like, but they're still the same, right? Like they entertain us. They're under the same umbrella term, right? No. So that's my big memory of realizing, oh, anime, that is what this is. That's what they are. That's what they're doing. That's what they're celebrating. Not cartoons. They're celebrating the separate, complete opposite genre, really, of anime.
Right. No, like I would say like mine's similar, but also kind of like similar in a very general sense is like, having that weird negative stigma in terms of like, ooh, if you watch anime, ooh, you look like you're a nerd. You're not watching like the real cartoons on like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or like that. Um, but I remember, at least in terms of my childhood, it was just it's oddly enough just like her. It's just me and my older brother. So I'm the younger one. So with this, it was me and my older brother who I think I remember our first time getting cable, which was like what 1999, legit 1 year before Y2K. Just finally getting cable and finally experiencing like the cable network. So like we had Nickelodeon and all that stuff. But I think we're still um enthroned of watching like the Saturday morning cartoons on the main
Yeah.
network. At least in
Conjunction
terms for
function. What's your function? Fuck. Sorry. Anyway.
wow, we're gonna go that far. Okay.
Oof.
Which is like the Saturday morning cartoons that are obviously like not the PBS ones. So like for at least in America, it's like Arthur, Cliff, the Big Red Dog, and all that stuff. Now, like these are gonna be like in the main networks. I know specifically Kids WB, Fox Kids, I think at one point had it, and they were like showing a variety. So that would have been, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. Definitely the big two. And I think I remember like at least in the early 2000s was Sonic X, and then I got into that whole genre quite beautifully because of both the game and oddly enough the anime at times. Um, and then I think on the Fox Kids network it was Digimon, Metabots, and all that stuff. And honestly, for me, I thought they were also the same as well because it's like, oh, it's animated. I don't know where the origins of this thing comes from, but I thought it would be like, it's like a interesting style. Maybe it came from a different state or something. Legit, that's what I thought. I think as a child, like, oh, they're all made in America. My God, I was that kind of kid.
Yep.
And I remember that stigma gotten away, not because it's anime, but I remember seeing some of the cartoons that were made in both Canada and France. And what I'm specifically talking about actually is Totally Spies, because I know that's made in Canada, I
What
think.
up? We
Um,
created spies for you.
um, and also Code Lyoko all the way back in France. I remember
Oh,
those two, like just
wow.
seeing the openings and just seeing the credits as it goes by in the openings. That's like, oh, this is not American made. What? But it's like translated to English. I mean, at least for Code Lyoko, I know that was translated to English. Totally Spies, I think that was always English to begin with French as its second thing, because obviously Canada. Um,
Yeah.
I think specifically made in Quebec, Canada too, which is hilarious. But like that's where I started like noticing like, oh, cartoons come from different countries. There are cartoons that comes from different countries. I've always thought it was just America. And it really didn't settle into, having that divide of cartoons and anime, like anime from Japan specifically. It was not until like late middle school, so like eighth grade to early high school, ninth grade, when my friends who I've hung out for like years started like talking about anime and such. And I was thinking, it's like, oh, like the ones they show on like Nickelodeon or like that, right? And it's like, no, like there's like more specific ones. I think at that time would have been like Inuyasha, Naruto, and all that stuff. And I had like just friends talking about the show. And I guess also Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh technically, because that does count. It is an anime.
Yes,
Um,
it is. You and your
it is an
judgmental
anime.
ways. God. Sorry. I'm still teasing him about his Pokemon being an overrated anime. Anyway.
Hi. Yeah. But no, like just like finally like hearing it, it's like I've always thought it was a cartoon because it's like, oh, it's shown on the same block as many of like the animated cartoon series. So technically I think here's like your borderline ones. So I remember Jackie Chan Adventures, Shaolin Showdown. That's like kind of borderline because it's technically an American cartoon, but it's based on like an Asian sort of like style. Um I think American Dragon Jake Long, but that was Disney, so I think that was like their only first entry, and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is Nickelodeon's entry into it. So I was thinking, it's like, oh, they're just all based the same with the style. They're going for that new style, that new Asian style, or whatever. But I didn't expect that actually that all have some derivation in terms to anime. Um, so just like finally noticing that there is a certain divide between watching a cartoon like, hey, SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Futurama, all that stuff, Simpsons, and an anime like Pokemon, Sonic, Inuyasha, like that. There is a specific divide, and then for me, it's like I think also the same thing when I got my laptop and I finally went on the internet and finally got that good old broadband internet. We just start looking at YouTube and whatnot and just start figuring out like, oh, you can watch shows, or you can do this, you can do that. I think that's where I decided to like really discover like anime, and then noticing that there is a certain separation between cartoons and anime, and also like both a combination of both my friends and YouTube, because early days YouTube were fun. Man, I miss early days YouTube of just seeing like a lot of anime music videos, like
Mm.
random like anime style skits that uses like stills from different types of anime and just all that fun stuff. If you guys know what those are, feel free to comment down below because I want to see if you could like if you guys could like point out some examples that I may know, maybe not,
Oh
or
man,
would
I
know but
was
never watched it
part
because
of
it's
a
not my style.
couple. That's a
Yeah, no, that's my view on in terms of anime. It took me a while, just as like as well as Dragon. It took me a while to figure out that there is a difference between cartoon and anime, even though
yeah,
we've watched a handful of anime already.
yeah. And for me, like that 13, that being 13, that year was quite strange because parents divorced and things got like pretty real for life for me.
Hmm.
Just a lot of things happened, and I think that's when I kind of stopped watching kid shows entirely. Because I think I mentioned this before in other episodes where I had like a gap between really like anime for a few years there, where just like I kind of turned to a different avenue instead of it being animated, cutesy art styles, Japanese art styles, animes, all that kind of thing. Instead of watching
Mhm.
shows like that, I quote unquote grew up and watched like the Disney shows. So like Lizzie McGuire, Radio Free Roscoe, watching Hannah Montana. Yes, I watched that.
Yeah, it's okay. I watched that too.
Smart
I fully.
Guy. Yeah, Smart Guy. And then even then, like Proud Family, Kim Possible, even those shows too, I did not chalk up to be like cartoon or anime. Again, it's just like a show. And so I watched those for quite a while until I got a little older before I moved to the big city, Edmonton. I really watched a lot of Disney. And then I started watching other sort of like, I guess, live action shows, I suppose is what they're called. I don't know, reality shows where like
Like the drama shows.
Degrassi, Dawson's Creek, yeah, and 90210. Started watching ER, Grey's Anatomy, like those shows I got really into, and then suddenly I forgot about these cartoons or animes that I watched for quite a while. I just totally ignored it. However, I supplemented it with games, so I played every single Pokemon game. What up? But yeah,
So
it
you still
was
had your like your what is it? The not spice, but like a little like thing of like the Japanese flair. Like in terms of like you're still kind of getting
yeah.
into like the Japanese games and like that. Sure, you haven't watched the anime or anything like that, but like you still have that sort of like I guess like I could finally use this word like the little otaku sort of deal where you're just playing the Japanese games instead.
Yeah, like god dang, looking up. I remember playing Harvest Moon for the longest time and wanting to
Oh
look
wow.
up like what Natsumi was, because it just wasn't an English sounding name and or company. And even Nintendo, I didn't even chop up to being like anything about Japan either for the longest time until yeah, I started looking these up. Like, what is Natsume? What is Japan? Or what is Japan? Of course, no. Um,
Japan. Oh no.
oh no, what is Nintendo? Then I started to realize, oh, these things are like in Japan. They're they have places here that they develop the game and make English versions of it, all that kind of stuff. Yes, but that was when I like what he mentioned too, like when he started realizing that there's other countries where all these things are from. That was my clue. It was looking up like what Natsume was or what like all these things were, and I was like,
Mhm.
what? And then after that, I turned to manga for a while,
Oh
which
really?
I don't think he knows about. So surprise!
Oh,
I actually
that's a
turned,
surprise for me.
yeah, I turned to manga for a little bit, but that was quite short lived. Unfortunately, my mom had she had a stigmatized view about all of it. About manga. Not anime, not the cartoons we were watching, but manga, because she's like, oh, all they write about is like girl on girls and like kissing and sex, and it's all about that in
That's what every
mangas. Hmm?
yeah. I
That
remember
was,
you telling me about this part.
yeah, and so I read a little bit of this manga. I think a couple of them I think I started with one that did get raunchy at one point, so I was like, "Oh no, my mom's right." Close. Um,
Oh my.
literally, and I was like, "Oh no, my mom's right," and that turned me away from it for a while. But then I started getting into it again, and I read Savior, which was a really good one, and I'm really sad that I could never find the rest of the books for that one. I was so into it, I wanted more, but Savior was really
Did
good.
you ever finish it?
No, like I just said, I couldn't find any of it. I read
Oh,
up to book 7, I think, or 8 for that, and I could never found it ever again. And same with Bride of the Water God. I read that one, and I really, really loved it and enjoyed it so, so much. But I could never find the books to continue reading it. I think I literally bought up to book 6 for each of those. And there's one other category I remember. I don't remember what it was called, but it was really, really cute. And that one did have a girl and girl relationship in it. Hee hee hee, but never told my mom. So
dang.
there's that.
Nice.
And then, yeah, then of course, my mom's stigma really stuck in my head, especially if any of those books that I was reading got into anything raunchy. It just was like, oh, I have to stop. Like, oh no, I'm not allowed to look at this kind of thing. And then, yeah, I
Oh,
went back to like Disney Channel for a while and like I don't know what you call 90210 in those shows. I don't really know what genre they are, but then I went
like
back to
drama.
those. Yeah, drama. That's probably the great word for it. Then, Q High School. So, quite similar to Spam here a little bit as well, where I had friends who were like, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen Trigun? Have you seen Kill la Kill? Do you know what Akira is? And I was like, these all sound like what? What?
Right?
I have no idea what these are. And they're like, oh, come on, it's anime. Come watch anime with us. I was like, anime. I've heard that before. And I was like, oh, like Animeathon, right? And they're like, well, we can have a marathon of anime if you want. I'm like, is that what that was? I had no clue what Animeathon was, and I
Oh my
literally thought for the longest time that I'm like, oh, they all dressed up as character to come watch animes in like a marathon. Yeah,
god.
I was that child for like till I was 15,
Right.
basically. Um,
See now I'm kind of curious, and I don't know if you want to keep like this will kind of go on to your like your high school thing. Have you
yeah,
ever gone into your like your school's anime club if you ever had one? If they ever had one?
no,
Oh.
I was in book clubs. Yeah,
Oh. I see.
I
So you're
read
definitely
books.
reading. Got it.
And I did theater for a little bit, not as like actual acting or drama or anything like that. I like helped painted sets and did lighting for a show once.
Ooh.
And then I joined student council near the end of high school.
Okay, interesting. Because I've always thought it's like if you had friends that watched anime, I was thinking it's like, did you ever do anime club? I
We were
couldn't
our
remember.
own anime club everywhere we went. Trust me,
Oh, really?
we had the buttons for like Pokemon and Attack on Titan on everything that we had, like backpacks and like
Hmm.
whatever, really lunch bags. They had all the like merch for. We were our own walking talking anime club.
Even though it's not official, it's just within friends and sort of like that.
Yeah, pretty much. But then pretty soon we started bringing Yu-Gi-Oh cards to school, and then our group of friends grew crazily, and we had like Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments at one point, even with some of the teachers. So we kind of had a club, kind of not.
Hey, oh my God,
Yeah.
man! Now I've been like reminded of just like a handful of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't mind. I'm just remembering them like in terms of school. Um, definitely. So for me, I lived in multiple cities and states during my whole primary school life. Um, I went through 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. That's a great time. But no, like I just remember like when I was used to live in New York, it was just me and my brother. And oddly enough, it's like we lived in New York City. I'm bound to, we're bound to see something like in terms of anime, but apparently not. It wasn't like it didn't really catch on with like my friends that who I talked to back in elementary school. I don't know so much about my brother because he was already in middle school by that time, so I'm pretty sure there was like some sort of stigma in terms of anime in there. And that's I think maybe the reason why he probably started watching anime ever since. Could be. But like
Mm-hmm.
I remember just like having friends like talking about things. I don't ever think we've talked about like Yu-Gi-Oh. Maybe like a little bit of Pokemon, but it's like Pokemon cards, and nothing more than that. Like I think for you it's like yeah, it's like just talk about like the Pokemon cards, maybe the Pokemon game, but never the anime.
Right.
Um, when I lived for like 2.5 years in Florida, it was roughly the same. I didn't start to know a little bit more people who did play Yu-Gi-Oh and like that, but again, we never talk about like anime or anything of that sort. I remember having a friend like, and I remember just having like a bunch of friends who like had Game Boy Advances because that was like the most portable thing you can carry to school, and pretty glad you don't get confiscated. But I just remember like having a couple friends they had Game Boy Advances and they were playing Kingdom Hearts. And that's how I kind of like
Mm.
realized like that whole like anime style thing. But it's like, it doesn't really think I'm not really thinking it's anime. It's like, ooh, this looks pretty. Ooh, this looks cool. And I knew for the fact I've always wanted a Game Boy Advance, but I never got one till like legit when the Nintendo DS came out, and then I only played my Game Boy Advance for like a couple months before I had a computer.
Damn.
See my trend. But no, like yeah, back middle school, like talking about anime, nothing, nada, not a single, not a single soul wants
No.
to talk about anime, just mostly cartoons. And that was when I went for like a first couple months in middle school because middle school started at sixth grade in Florida. So I had my taste of middle school before going back to elementary school in California because middle school started at seventh grade here. Great, damn you, U.S. education systems. But um, just like just going into middle school, I remember talking to like making new friends there, and all we just talked about was like cartoons. And well, it's interesting. We talked more like about like comic books and whatnot. Not so much for like the Marvel.
DC
What's the other one?
Comics.
Thank you. Marvel, DC, and Archie's like that. Oddly enough, I think I had one friend who ended up buying like a very big anthology of comics from the Calvin and Hobbes series. My God, those were
Ooh.
fun to read. I love reading Calvin and Hobbes. I kind of wish I had that book now. Um, I'm tempted to buy it now that I think about it. But no, like we just like talk about like comics and like that, but nothing. I don't recall ever talking about anime. Again, maybe cartoons, but nothing more than that. Everything in terms of like cartoons and anime, which is all within me. Um, I will say that I did have a slight fallout with my brother back when we're in Florida, though we're all kind of back together in some ways. We don't talk, but when we do, we do. But like,
Family is a thing, guys. Yeah.
yes. But like for me, like seeing how my brother was watching Naruto, and I think at that point maybe Inuyasha started coming out and whatnot, Yu-Gi-Oh! Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin, all that stuff. Like I know about it, and I watched like snippets of it, but nothing more than that. I didn't really get into it. I didn't really bother. I was mainly watching Disney Channel,
Yeah.
Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network during that time. And I think, yeah, Cartoon Network did have a couple of like anime at that point. I knew they picked up some, especially when the Saturday morning cartoons finally rolled out into the cable networks. So that's like where I like kind of like rewatched a couple of things like I pronounced before, like Sonic X. I think Metabots and Digimon definitely, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all that stuff.
Beyblade. Sorry.
Beyblade. Oh my God, how can I believe I forget Beyblade? That too, I remember
That
getting that into with
opening
my
is
brother.
still that opening still gets me every time. It's Beyblade.
Beyblade.
Oh, so good.
No, no,
Anyway,
no, 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 no. I want to play that now. Just start playing that right now. Pause for like a minute, play that opening, and then come back. All right? No. Did you ever get into the game, or did you ever get into like buying Beyblades? I know that was more of a boy
yes.
thing.
Oh my god, I was so this is the thing before, like, you know how we're so open and like night, like good about gendered and being fluid and things like that. This is way before
Hmm.
then. So I was your tomboy. I was with
Oh.
Beyblade, playing Pokemon cards, didn't dress all girly, didn't give a crap about any of that, my hair, nothing. I was purely like your typical kind of nerd, kind of like stronger than normal girl too at that point.
Oh wow.
And like just definitely did not fit into like, oh my god, let's talk about boys. No. I was
Talking
with
about
I
Barbie.
was with the boys playing Beyblade and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
I must be the cool girl, but every girl hates.
No, actually, they bullied me quite crazily because I was like, "How come you like don't do anything with your hair and like you're fat?" And I got lots of bullied. Bullying was part of this thing, and also part of the stigma too, because the girls were like, "How can you
Sure.
watch all that crap?" Yeah.
Why don't you play with Barbie dolls and watch Wings Club? Anyways,
Why don't you get a cell
that's
phone and be
more
cool
Pablo
like
doing.
us? Yeah, that was the time when cell
Get
phones
that
came
cake
out.
about a razor.
Get that flip
Or
phone,
Blackberry.
and then like it became like get the BlackBerry, and then became iPhone. Yeah, fuck. I was never that kid. Never. I was happy with my little flip phone when I got one. And then I got a BlackBerry and I was like, okay, I guess this is the hype? Question mark?
It's funny because I remember
Yeah.
just dude, sorry for this big ass tangent, but I just remember like when I started getting more into technology, it's like, oh, I saw the iPhone, and then I think one of my mom's friend had the very first OG iPhone. I was like, Mom, I want one, realizing it was like 600-700 bucks, which is a lot for like a 12-year-old. Still a lot nowadays, but yeah.
Well, even back then, that's a lot for like 10, 15 years ago. That's still a lot.
Yeah. I know compared to like everything now, which is like up to like 4 digits. Woo! Inflation.
But to go on with this tomboy thing a little bit more, you want to know how much of a tomboy I was?
How
I
much?
never wore shorts styled for girls when I was younger. I wore those boy like boarding shorts like
Oh.
all the time, like t-shirt, boarding
Oh.
shorts. I was that kid. I never wore proper like jeans or like, the girly jeans, the nice fitted pants, the skirts. Never
Mhm.
that kid.
Oh
So I
wow.
wore like Pokemon t-shirts and like really nerdy things because I was
Uh,
so into it. And
Definitely
yeah,
the cool nerdy kid.
not the cool one. I wasn't cool, even in the nerd group. But they're like, "Yeah, I get. Well, did you bring your cards?" Like, yeah. Like, okay, come in. So,
Oh, okay, I see. It sounds like wow. That sounds when you put it that way, it sounds like a cult. Now that I think about it, everything was a cult. Anyways.
I'm like, yeah. The day that I got a Tamagotchi, I finally was cool. Anyway,
Oh, that's ironic so much. Anyways. I love this. I love this tangent. Thank you. You're welcome, everyone. Um,
but yeah, no, like, it was so weird. It's like there was such a huge divide in my middle school about it. Like, there was just this like little group here that was just kind of like everywhere we went, there was like Pokemon cards out, or like Yu-Gi-Oh cards out, or something on us. Like even in middle school, it was like nerdy, like nerd alerts were coming through the hallways.
and it was like interesting because I no lie when I got to middle school here in California, I was like kind of I tried to like get away from the anime and weeb nerdy side. I just kind of want to be normal because I would like I I'm very I would say I'm above average in terms of like grades and whatnot. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I always want to try to like be smart, get the get the good grades and whatnot, be like that perfect A student for the family and all that stuff. While my brother was out in college already at that point, so I was the only child again. But just be like that person that never were like just getting away from anime and whatnot, and just being away from the nerd stuff. And I think I remember like just not getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh during all of middle school year until I talked to some of the friends as before we transitioned to high school, and then eventually early years high school, we were just talking about like Yu-Gi-Oh and whatnot. And it's like, ooh, man, I haven't heard this in like forever. It's like I
Yeah.
wonder how is it going now. And I think at that point when I went, it was like early high school. It was like about to end Yu-Gi-Oh GX,
Mm.
and eventually started 5Ds. Though I think I remember starting 5Ds like sophomore junior year, and that's right there and then when I just got into like back into like all the
Yeah.
nerdy stuff again. All my
Yeah.
teenagers, of course.
Yeah, I was good with it middle school, and so for me, middle school is grade 5 to 8. And then I had 1 year in grade 9 of high school, and then I moved to the city, which was high school is 10 to 12. So I had 4 years of high school in a very broken way, but that's fine.
Right.
But I remember hitting grade 9, and suddenly it was such a weird setup. So the city that I lived in was really weird. There's very few high schools in that city.
Mm.
Like we had a north side, a south side, and a military base. It was kind of a really weird divided city.
Right.
So we had a couple high schools only, and that was it. So when we moved to grade 9, all of my middle school friends just totally abandoned me and left me to go find all these people that they knew from like their soccer teams or from like sports or things that they did outside of school. And then
Right.
suddenly they were all together in one place. And then that's when I stopped all of it. I stopped watching and caring about everything because not only that, it was like the year after parents divorced. I was living not in the best conditions and like it was not a good year. And so when you're like thrown into so many different complicated situations at that age, you just drop all of it. And so I remember dropping all of it for quite a while and just not even wanting to watch it.
Right.
And it was just kind of a weird time, and I didn't feel comfortable until finally I met a nerdy friend at my job at McDonald's. Yay, McDonald's! What up? And found out that she was in my
Ooh.
math class, and so we hung out, and then I found out she was friends with some of my older friends from middle school I had not really talked to in like a year.
Oh, okay.
And then we all got reconnected, and they're like, "Have you seen like this? Have you seen Yu-Gi-Oh! GX? It's so wild." And I'm like, "It continued." Like I had no idea that Yu-Gi-Oh!
I
Like,
was the same person too. I was like, I think I remember like it was a combination of both my friends talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And then going to Target and then looking at the front, it's like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Really? What's this?
right? So it was
I
just
thought it was
definitely,
dead.
yeah, it was weird. And then like I was moving away, so then that also was like another cutoff point too. Like, oh, I'm going to a new city. I gotta like be different, because
Right.
like new city, new me. What up? Yet I found the exact same nerdy friends in high school. That really brought me
Dang.
back into it, and they used the word anime so frequently that I was like, "That's what this is. That's what I've been watching." And then they also watched a lot of like those cartoons too, like 16, Holy Spies, Martin Mysteries, all those. And they were
Ooh.
able to call them cartoons. And so hearing them discuss about the differences and like, did you see that like cartoon back on like Cartoon Network or Teletoon, whatever it was up here in Canada? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, what? There's two different words.
Right.
Weird. I thought it was all what? And so it was just so funny. And so they're like, Val, what do you want to watch? You want to watch tunes? So that was our nickname for cartoons. Tunes or anime? And so hearing them specifically split that up into two was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, weird. So that means card captors, anime. And they went through this with me at one point too. Sailor Moon, anime. Pokemon, anime. Digimon, anime. Beyblade, anime. And then I was
Dang.
like, Totally Spies, cartoon. That was from the Toon Network. I was like,
Right.
man. um, and then my friends and I went crazy with all this because we started writing fan fictions, and we all ended up dating our favorite characters. Anyway,
Ooh, so you were part of the shipping crew and like shipping characters on certain shows and whatnot, right?
not shipping characters in shows, finding the characters that relate to us the most and shipping ourselves with them. We were that
Oh,
weirdos.
okay. Oh, so you had like some sort of persona
Yeah,
with
we would
them.
have an in person in the story. So bleh. Spoiler alert, I was the nerd of my group in the sense of academics, how hard I worked, had a job, all these things. Like I was kind of like the adult in my group of friends in high school because yeah, I had a job.
Right.
I lived far away. I had to be responsible. I did my homework. I had to do all my assignments. They always were pretty high grades. Not as academically brilliant as this kid in this freaking call with me. But,
Yeah,
you
what's
know,
that?
I worked really, really hard for those grades. So I kind of stood out that way. So they always saw me as the nerdy person that had to be the nerdiest character in all these shows.
Mm-hmm.
That meant Tristan from Yu-Gi-Oh! The
You,
original series. I was with Tristan. Then I was with, I still can't remember his name. Oh, God. There's a character in GX that was, he did a lot of math. I don't remember his name right now. I was with him.
oh, oh, hold on.
Right.
I got you, fam. I think I remember. It's speaking right now. It's not Jaden, obviously not.
No,
But
not Jaden. It wasn't Duke. It wasn't.
it was not Duke. Fuck, what was it?
I know, right? Like, I was
I'll
shipped with
know it
him.
when I see the name. Like that's the thing. I'll know it when I see the here we go. List of GX characters. Cyrus. I'm assuming?
No!
Or
No, no, no.
not him?
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I have to do this too, guys.
Alright, alright.
We'll get
You'll
there.
figure it out along the way.
Bastion!
Oh, Bastion! Oh, actual genius. Gotcha.
Yes, they put me with Bastion. And then when it
Ooh,
came
okay.
to. Right? And then 5D, I had a ship in 5D as well. I don't remember any characters in 5D at this current moment in time.
God. God. I'm
Oh,
trying to remember.
I think.
Here, I
No.
I gotta ask a side question now. Like, this is gonna be a very deep, like, I will say this will be a very deep question in some ways.
Oh boy.
Did you ever had a DeviantArt account?
Yeah. My friend Tasha back in high school had DeviantArt because she was an artist. She did a lot of art. And so she's like,
Right.
you should come and join me and you can like look at all these fun things. I was like, cool. And yeah, I looked up a lot of like my favorite shows and characters on TV.
Did you like find all the fan art, both the fan art and then the stories? Because I know a lot of people
Yeah,
like
fanfics were from
fanfic there.
DeviantArt for
Actually,
me.
God,
I
fun
know.
times.
But that was how like far down the rabbit hole we went down with like all these things, and then we watched a little bit of other shows too. So like the Vampire Diaries. Yeah, yeah. Shut up, guys. Don't judge me. Um, the Vampire Diaries. Then we went to the originals because that was a spin-off show during high school. That's when that started. And we did the same thing. They partnered up with me with the nerdiest characters in all the shows. Always. I didn't really have a choice either. And then I kept thinking about like, well, I mean, I guess if I'm smart and they're smart, I guess it would work. I never like clued into like, did I actually find any of these characters interesting or attractive myself? To this day, I
Oh
can't
no.
really give you an answer to that. I just was like something I got kind of pushed into to be part of the story that they were writing. Yeah, healthy friendships, guys. Totally.
Right.
But that was how much we got into it. And then, yeah, they started showing me other things. Like, they showed me Kill la Kill, Dragyn, Akira. I got into Fate during that time, too, on my own. Got into the Fate series during then. And there's a few others that we saw. I have my list of anime somewhere from, like, our favorite list. But anyway, we really, like, always went over to my friend Whitney's place because she lived basically just right down the road from the school, like the high school. So we would go there and nerd the hell out every day that we could.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really was like, okay, this is anime, this is interesting, okay. But then as soon as I started looking outwards, so for my group, like the rest of the school basically, no one else was doing this stuff with us. No one else was talking about it. No one else was even thinking about it. We were there in our own little like circle, just having this very openly out there. No one else was. And so I remember being in a math class once where I was helping one of the popular kids do math because he was struggling a little bit, and I have a complicated relationship with math, guys. I'm not going to get into it, but basically I was excelling in this level of math and they would not let me go up levels of math. So I basically kept scoring like 90s on everything in those classes. And I got to the point where I was helping him out and I was like, hey, I'm curious. Do you watch like Yu-Gi-Oh? or anything like that? And he goes, no. I watch shows. I watch whatever my girlfriend watches. So like, yay high school for that, right? And so he's like, I watch like 90210 and like The Bachelor and like Celebrity Apprentice and like these shows. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was my one attempt to like try to form another friendship outside of my circle. Failed.
Right.
Failed. But he was really nice anyway. He's still like, he's just like, Violet, help again. How do you plot this on a graph? And I'm like, all right, come here. Not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but it was nice to still help him. So we had like an in-class friendship. But then as soon as we went out there, he went the opposite way, opposite direction, that kind of thing. And then I remember trying to join school events. So this is when I got into like being a library helper because our library was still growing and developing. So we're ordering books, and my job was to put all those barcodes into the books so that they would set off the alarm if a kid took it out without reserving it or like checking the book out, kind of thing. I did all that for all the books in the library. At one point, I joined the Citadel Club, which got me into some of the drama kids group, basically, and like the theater kids. And that's when I helped with the production of The Wiz. And I kind of started to branch out a little bit. But in all of these little like groups, so The Wiz, the musical theater group, the library staff, even the student council, when I became clerk, no one was talking about any of this. No one was into it. And so it was one of those things where I was too scared to bring it up, because if they weren't going to talk about it on their own, then why bring it up and look like an idiot like I was in that math class? So even in high school, despite having a group that I felt secure in and feeling like anime was cool again, outside of us it wasn't. That's what it was like in high school for me.
Hmm.
What about you? How did you notice like the outer school, and like was there like multiple like anime friend groups in your school, or was it just like you guys, or what do you
Okay,
think?
so I think like I explained like more of like the elementary and the middle school sort of like fun things. It's just like a small group and whatnot. Ever since going to high school, and I know for the fact this high school I went to, which is like local to me, has been established for like having multiple clubs and whatnot. And specifically, I remember they having, I think they've reintroduced this. I think I remember this weird story with it. They've reintroduced Anime Club into my high school.
Mm.
And I actually had a friend who joined initially back in freshman year and like has met with like a couple of like his senpais and whatnot. Yeah, they went that far with it. Um, and then eventually, like throughout high school, more and more people that I knew and became friends with joined that anime club. I was not the person that really got into it because again, I wasn't fully into anime until way later, like college. Which we'll get to. Um, but like throughout high school, it's like, yeah, like heard and known like this sort of anime stance, at least within my group of friends, and that one it was just starting to slowly build up more and more throughout the years going through high school. Because eventually, a couple of my friends became like the true like members of of Anime Club and having a position in it. So like every club, like for our school, every club has a president, VP, secretary, and treasurer because you actually do have to run this club all the way through. Um, with a budget apparently and all that fun stuff. It's great. But
Even
like
for anime
just
club?
yeah,
Damn.
every it's like for those who wants a little bit of context in this sense, if you ever watch like, your stereotypical high school anime sort of deal of like you need this many members to form a club sort of deal.
Hmm.
It was like that there, but they also had to find a teacher that will accept them. I think they had a fun time doing that. I
Like
remember
a
hearing
teacher
stories.
supervisor?
Yeah, to like
Yeah.
have the just to use their classroom for meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, or at least the anime club meetings, quote unquote. They've been watching anime and whatnot because it's anime club. You don't really learn too much because they had a Japanese Korean Chinese culture club. So
Oh,
that's where you learn the main side, like the main pop, like the
pop
mainstream stuff.
culture, like
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Anime club was very specifically. I think this is like had been like somewhat of their downfall in terms of like what is their objective.
Mm.
They have to only focus on anime. And during the early 2010s, that was like very little. It's
Yeah.
like the stigma still is that anime was not it was still a pretty niche cultured thing where if you got in early on, you may be the weird kid, unfortunately, sort of deal.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and just
Uh,
that. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna just say fun fact for those that want to know like what clerk was in student council, because that's what I was. That was my role. You know how
Hmm.
you said like the clubs or the students that wanted to form a club and had to find a room and a teacher
Hmm.
for student council. I was their go-to person to help them with it,
Oh, really?
because I was the main like form of communication. So we would have our student council meetings, and we'd have students every once in a while come in, make a presentation about a club they want to start and whatnot. And if they had a room and talked to a teacher already, great. If they didn't, I got their contact information and I went to teachers and asked their interest. I was the weird one in high school. Now that I realize it, I went up to teachers all the time going, would you be interested in hosting this club? I feel like you'd be a really good teacher to do so. And then find out 10 seconds later, like, I have no interest in any of that. I'm like, great. Well, thank you for answering my question. Goodbye. So,
My God,
I,
you guys kind of made that like a little bit easier as terms of you being a clerk doing that because I remembered unless if you're forming a new club and the or like your teacher that wants to supervise the club has fell out, like they retired or they don't want to do it anymore, it was up to the club to figure out who they need to go to.
we only help them set it up. If something happened, like if the teacher couldn't do it anymore, or if like the group just got too small, It would be up
Hmm.
to them what they wanted to do with it. They just had to let us know. AKA, let me know, because I was the communication guru of student council
Dude.
that time. So yeah, I learned so much about all my teachers that way.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, because I remember just like as it progressed, like I remember just like seeing more and more friends joining anime club, and this is the weird thing that I found weird at least when I was back in high school. Nowadays, and especially probably now, it's like it's probably gonna be very normal. But I've noticed that some of my friends who are like very like I would say gifted students, like the smart students like that, not like the very smart ones, but like ones who are like above average like me and their friends and whatnot, they joined anime club and was just like, this is weird.
That is
And then
really
I
cool,
remember,
though.
yeah. And then I think I remember seeing all the higher like the I'm just gonna use senpais on this because fuck it, I can't think of the words right now. Like all the senpais and whatnot. Like there's like the mixture of like the ooh, they're too nerdy, but also very normal, gets high grades and whatnot. I'm just like, and you're an anime club?
Oh, the perfect student.
We had a couple of those in
Oh,
my school where it was just like
same.
it it predates the normality of anime in terms of like this whole anime club like predates the idea of normality in anime.
Yeah.
Just like really getting into it. And I was like throughout the 4 years I was in high school, I did not want to join anime club per se because I knew it was a commitment and I know my dad or my parents would not be like particularly proud that I joined anime club just for that. Just to like watch anime that it'd be cool. Like I knew like throughout the high school like life, like they had their meetings watching anime and then also we had this like big rally where all the clubs do their thing in a high school rally.
Oh, cool.
So you either dance to a song, you do something like that. I remember I remember Anime Club, it's always an anime song. And it's oddly enough, if you were part of the early 2000 like the late 2000s, early 2010s YouTube, you would recognize a good majority of those anime memes. They danced to it. They did it.
Ah, wow,
It
that's so
was
cool.
it was pretty amazing. And just I remember as I went from freshman to senior, I remember seeing that group slowly growing bigger, bigger, and bigger. It actually
Nice.
grew. They never had a small group that always just end up, like struggling to find people. They always grew year by year.
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely tell, like once I heard about that, like Anime Club, and have my friends, like a friend, then more friends join it. It's when I really realized that, ooh, sure, anime could be is like, anime's for nerds or geeks or anything like that. But you know what? Fuck it. Oh
Yeah.
well. The people that I know are smart as hell and talk to like also like normal people as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've it's interesting, really interesting during that time. But like then again, I think that's when anime starts emerging. It's starting to become a little bit more mainstream, quote unquote, I'd say. But just seeing like the mixture of like different cliques in
Mm-hmm.
anime club because there's always that one person who's in that clique, that one other person in that clique who shares those other cliques, which are whether it's like the Asian group, the jocks, the nerds, whatever, like the whole spectrum. So no matter what, in the anime club that at my high school, it was never just one small niche. It was shared amongst like many groups and whatnot. I don't know how well it like really turned out in terms of the whole high school spectrum, but I was surprised myself just seeing that.
Well, yeah, just seeing like different kinds of students you see in other contexts as being totally different, and then like
Hmm.
coming in all together in this one little like weird, quirky little club, and seeing like this side of them would be something really unique. Uh, that was my experience on student council, but not for anime really. It was more like, oh, all these people are actually really chill. They're not stuck up like stressed IB students that I see in the hallways panicking about everything IB. They're super chill, and they're just regular kids like me. I had that experience, but in a very different context.
Yeah, no, it was like if I think about it now, I kind of wish I did join anime club just to probably get into anime earlier, but I think it has its like, like its pros and cons, I guess, in my eyes of like
Mm-hmm.
whether joining anime club was the right thing to do or not. Because I knew I had like other obligations during high school. Like I did I was in a science and engineering sort of club where we go to like regional and state competitions. So I was like really focused into that. I was also getting like just doing AP classes. And then eventually senior year, I did yearbook. I,
Oh wow.
uh, me and my friend were legit haphazardly running yearbook as pseudo editors in chiefs.
Oh wow.
Because we're the only ones who were really good at graphic design, and none of the higher, like all of the people who are really into graphic design was graduated when we transitioned from junior
Mm,
to senior year. So we were the only ones to
wow.
really be the editors in chiefs for our yearbook. So like that's where like I started seeing more like how you see it like it's student council, you see like all those different clubs and whatnot. I saw it in the other light as a yearbook editor
Oh
because
man.
you have to manage that shit.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy. High school just definitely was a weird one. Like, just depending on how, like, I know a lot of people hate high school and like their experiences were awful, but
Mhm.
I really had a unique experience where I felt like I could be a kid, like still be a teenager with the friends. When regards to like anime and like playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards and finding teachers interested in Yu-Gi-Oh out of thin air, basically.
Mhm.
And then like I felt like I could be a kid when I was at school, which was really neat because like before then I didn't really feel like a kid. I felt like I had to have a job, be responsible, take care of like my little sister, all these things, and become an adult really. So like high school really brought me back into that like I could be a kid at school and then like go back to that responsible person outside of school kind of thing.
Right. But for me, it was because in school, yeah, I talked to like a lot of people, but outside of school, I've only had a very small group of friends who talk to online in, well, Yahoo Messenger. Never used AOL, never used MySpace. Ended up using Facebook and Twitter a little bit, but didn't really talk to them there. It was like Yahoo Messenger, where in
Wow.
that, like in my very small group of friends who I still am friends with today for a good majority of them, they talked about like anime as well. I think at that point that was Full Metal Alchemist,
Yes,
Bleach.
yes.
Um, what are the other ones for 2010? Shoot, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Oddly enough, a little bit of Oran and Oran High School and crap. What was the other ones? Like those era. I just remember seeing them talk about it, and I think at one point I did like look upon it on YouTube, Google, and whatnot during those times. I attempt to watch it, but never really got into it. And then I remember just getting back, like finally really getting into anime was basically senior year. I don't know what really sparked it though. I think it
Hmm.
was just one friend told me to watch this random short. Yeah, no, it was this. Like one of my friends told me to watch this random short. I was on YouTube, and I started watching it. It's like, oh my god, this is stupid. I hate it. I love it. And then I just started watching more and more, and then after that, it just stopped.
Hmm.
Like no one else was uploading the other episodes. So then I looked it up, tried to figure out what it is. And then, oddly enough, I stumbled upon a site called Crunchyroll, and I think this was during their early days of finally becoming doing simulcasting legal anime. If, if you guys want to search up like Crunchyroll's history, go for it. Hence why I said that part. Um, but I saw Crunchyroll. I like looked at it. I realized it requires a paid membership. As a high school student, you really don't have money, so you try to
Unless you're me who had the job. But anyway.
ah.
Haha,
Oh,
but I didn't know about Crunchyroll until I met you, so.
yeah. But just like trying to figure out like, all right, so I'm just gonna try to scrape by. I think I remember at one point did watch On Kiss Anime at that point in time before finally getting a premium subscription in college. But just like started like watching that show and I realized it continued on. I think I was still in the binge of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds at that point because I was still playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At that time. At least like during the latter half of high school, I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was in the 5Ds era because my friend was told me to watch it. I started watching it, and I remember just commentating with him about the latest episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then eventually, I think that's when I jumped into like from Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubbed, so the English dub, to Yu-Gi-Oh! Japanese subbed on Kiss Anime or something like that. So I think I realized that was like my first taste in like actual like anime and like watching true raw from Japan anime.
I finally remember the character from 5D they put me with.
Oh, who?
And at this time, I probably should have known that I have an interesting sexuality because they put me with Carly.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, dear Lord, I just remembered this.
really?
Yeah. Unsuccessful, clumsy reporter. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was a big
So
fangirl for Jack, so it's kind of a
I
weird
was about to say,
one.
you a big fan of Jack Atlas?
I wasn't, so like, I don't know why this happened. My friends are weird. Anyway, 5D. Um,
Yeah, no, I get it. Oddly enough, because yeah, then from there, that was my first time actually really watching, yeah, subbed anime. So Japanese
oh.
audio, English subtitles. But I didn't watch it like through Crunchyroll or anything. It was still through like a CD site because, hi, high schooler, you're broke. You don't really have the money or a debit card at that point in time. So
Well,
can't use this online shit.
well, that's neither here nor there. I was gonna say for me, my first subbed anime was actually Kill la Kill.
Oh, okay.
Trigun was on. Trigun was on. I don't remember how I watched Trigun, but it was in English. I remember that. That's why when I
Mhm.
found it years later and it was subbed, I was like, "Whoa, this is different." Um, but my first sub one was Kill la Kill because I could never find or like play around the settings to get it into English. So I was like, I mean, I can read it. That's fine. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was my first one was Kill la Kill. It was really interesting. Yeah.
Hmm, okay. And that's where you like really got into like just listening to all the Japanese audio versus like the dubbed per se.
Yeah, and then I preferred it. I remember like telling my friends like, "Wait, we don't need to watch this in English. Just do it sub." And they're like, "No, but like Violet, this voice actor and this voice actor." And like that's how much of nerds my friends were. They knew
Mm.
the voice actors and actresses very well for like North America, like English like side. So like, no, we have to watch it for this person, this person, this person. I was like, okay, sure. But then I would go home and like listen to it in Japanese,
Dang.
literally. But yeah, that's how much of a nerd they were. They knew all the actors, the voice actors. I could never remember that crap,
Oh my
honestly,
God. Same for my friends.
until like kind of now ish. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't tell you Kirito's voice actor's name, but I can recognize his voice in animes
I
now.
can recognize his voice from other animes. Yeah, sure. Same for me. No, I heard like my friends were like a couple of my friends were like the same thing too. Like they knew like uh the only name I can remember is like Vic Mignogna. I think I'm
Vic
pronouncing that wrong.
Montoya. Vic Montoya.
Just like all those like very astute voice actors, English voice actors, like because they dubbed this anime, they dubbed FMA, they dubbed like Inuyasha, they
Yeah,
dubbed
like
this that.
Lawyer Bailey, Travis Willingham, Liam O'Brien, Matthew Mercer. Carry on. Sorry, I know these guys now because of D&D. Okay, not because I'm an anime
But
nerd,
it's not
but
their
D&D.
VAs, right?
Hmm?
It's not because they're a VA, they're not a voice actor, but of other
I
things.
didn't know that what their jobs was. I was just like, ooh, D&D, who are they? Let's watch.
Right? Just like yeah, no, like just like I remember seeing my friends like talking about that. And oddly enough, I think this is the first time where I had a glimpse of knowing about anime conventions because I had a friend
Yeah.
who went to one of like the big Northern California anime conventions, Fanime.
Mm.
They went every year since either freshman or sophomore year of high school. And then my close friend has always been going to Fanime ever since just about the same, like starting sophomore year, because the senpais wanted to go to the anime convention legit right after finals.
Oh
Like
my
when
god.
school year ended, that's when Fanime started
Dang.
on the Memorial Day weekend, on the U.S. Memorial Day weekend. It was like if you're done with finals, you're literally trying to figure out how to get a car or ride with a parent and just go straight down to San Jose for a 3 day convention filled with anime and such. And I just remember hearing my friend and then friends going to Fanime, staying 3 nights, bundled up like 7, 8 people in a room because
Yeah.
slash college budget, man. You could only do so much.
Oh yeah.
I just remember hearing all that fun stories, and then like eventually I started seeing photos from my friends of just their cosplays and whatnot. And that's where I saw some interest of getting into it, not specific like cosplay or anything, but getting into anime and the whole fandom and whatnot,
Yeah.
but didn't really click on me yet until I got the Crunchyroll account, watched that, and then legit when I graduated from high school in middle of 2012, I had nothing else to do for a good 3 months before my first semester of junior college started. And so what I did was go through the internet, do my YouTube, watch YouTube videos, and then eventually, you know what? I'm gonna put my feet in, finally sign up for a premium account on Crunchyroll, and started watching anime.
Nice.
And for all the animes that I've watched throughout the years, watched 2 episodes where I talked about my
Mm.
um, history of anime. Then that's where you'll see what I've watched throughout the whole cycle, basically. Lifetime, I guess.
Yeah. Craziness. So, for me, kind of going into like university now for me, because I didn't have like a college and then a college like this guy did. Uh, but going into university for me, I was still like into anime, and I remember getting into Attack on Titan around this time.
Mhm.
Yes, I actually was into it at one point, guys. I promise I don't hate it that much. I used to not hate it. Anyway, uh, I remember like still watching it with my friends, but then there was this weird like couple years where a lot hit hard again. Like my life, guys, has been so tumultuous. Let's be real. But I lost both my grandparents my first year in university. I lost my best friend. Well, not lost, but like in death wise. But she and I ended like a friendship basically that same year, and I started to feel cut off from the others after that, basically. And
Mhm.
so when you had been spending literally 3, 4 years trying to dive into anime as much as you could and the things they loved and enjoyed and watched so that you could stay friends with them.
Right.
When you realize that, it punches you hard. I have spent a lot of time unpacking that, like over the years, realizing, oh my god, they were not my friends. They only thought I was their friend if I watched the stuff they liked, or if I could talk
Oh,
about the things they liked. That's not a friendship.
no,
Because
no.
I had other interests, total other interests during high school at that time too. I was like into mythology, Greek mythology. I was into history quite a bit. I loved reading like classics at that time. I had all these other things that if I brought it up, boom, shut down. So
Hmm.
I had that realization, and then like other friendships slowly like started to fall, dissolve. 2016, worst year ever. And in that period of time, from like basically first year university to the second year, third year, before I met him, basically, well, I met him during this time too, but he got to hear a lot of my craziness with my friends and all that crap that went down. I didn't really watch a lot of it. There's a good year or two before I met him. Yes, ma'am. I didn't watch any of it. I couldn't. I didn't want to look at it because it was again a reminder of like the friends, and if I watched it, was I really watching it for me or for them, kind of thing. And so I ended up just cutting it out and moved to like sitcoms on TV, like How I Met Your Mother and Two and a Half Men and Big Bang Theory. Moved to those shows, Grey's Anatomy. I got back into that around that point and just dropped anime for like a while. Then he's gonna laugh because I saw a weird video on YouTube. I always watch weird videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
But there was this weird scene. I don't remember what I was watching. I think I was watching a lot of Watch Mojo at that time. That's what it was. Watching like the top 10 badass anime fight scenes at that point. And there was a scene from Durarara in there. And I was like, I'm sorry, did he just take a stop sign, ripped it out of the ground, and hit a guy with it? And then a whole like vending machine came after? I was like,
Oh,
what
that
is
scene. Yeah,
this?
like
I was like, what is this anime? So I ended up like looking it up a little bit, and I was like, okay, it's a lot of action, it's kind of gory. I don't know about it. I'll keep it in the back of my mind. Q, how many months later when I met him? And then I was like,
yeah.
oh, what, you watch anime? Cool, what do you watch? And then I didn't know anything he listed
No.
at that point, but then he made me watch Anohana and shit, so that happened. You guys heard our story, but I got him into Durarara. Like, that was the very first one we watched together because I remember that scene still clearly in my head. Then I was like, I
It's
gotta
funny.
watch this from start to finish.
Yeah, no, like I remember. like you explaining that, and then I saw it. It's like, ooh, I've been always wanting to see this anime, because I remember seeing Cartoon Network at night when it was like late night Toonami, and I was like, I want to get into it, but it's like all segmented and everything, so I didn't bother.
Hmm.
But she, when
Oh,
we became friends, um, she said like, like we should watch something. And it's like, well, I said what in terms of like anime? It's like there are. It's like okay, looks it up. Ooh, all right, let's go for it.
yeah. I have to go backtrack a little ways because I realize I don't know if I should talk about this
Oh no.
on the podcast, but there was one point where my one friend Whitney and I went off the rails from our rest of our friends with animes and things. Very hardcore because no one was into this besides her and I.
Mhm.
Oh man, it's so inappropriate to bring up on YouTube, but I'm doing it. Her and I got into yaoi and hentai at one point,
Oh my.
and that's when the shipping really took off because we watched so many like fan made anime clips of like yaoi between
Mhm.
like all the characters. And like all these MVs, so like again, like what you were talking about, right? How people are making anime characters like as movie videos and things like that, the
Yeah.
songs. We watched a lot of inappropriate ones of those on YouTube.
Oh my god.
Oh, it got so weird at one point, and yeah, only her and I would ever like. If it was just her and I hanging out together, it would always go to that at one point throughout high
Mhm.
school. We would like play games or like watch a movie, but then we'd always go back. Hey, I saw this new video. Want to check it out? And I'm like, sure. And sure enough, it's some kind of yaoi or whatever it was. It was a really weird, interesting face, and maybe potentially a slight guilty pleasure sometimes. Still, but not full on. I don't want to watch the full thing anymore. The full naked no.
Right.
Fade to black, please, and I'm good.
Fade the black thing.
So there's
But oh
that.
my.
I actually went down that route at one point in my life too, when it came to anime, and I knew that was a huge stigma. That part of anime
Right.
always is a huge stigma. So that's something that I never like admitting proudly, like right now. But that was part of
Hey,
this story for me.
we've grown. It's just how it is. We've had our cringy times.
Oh, we've
Yeah, no,
seen a
it's
cringy
great.
anime. Do you remember that one we watched where it's like full on, very weird two guys, like completely opposite from each other, weirdly stalking each other, and like, remember that one?
Oh, it sounds familiar.
Don't
Does it
remember what
go
it was
gay
called.
after that?
Oh, it went super gay, and
Oh
we
yeah, yeah,
both
yeah.
like paused. I think you paused it. It was like, oh, do we continue? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that now. It's coming back to me. I remember that. Because I don't know what was it, but I was like, it was legit softcore yaoi. Where
Mm-hmm.
it's like no, and I remember this is how you're gonna figure it out. The plot line is we have these two super famous actors who are now being joined together for a film. And well, one of them is like horny on main, very horny on main. And well, every night, every end of the episode, they go banging.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
I I don't think he wanted to finish it, so he never finished it.
I have my reservations for that.
Yeah, I was totally okay to keep going, but that's because I have a history of yelling.
Mm, yeah, my God.
Yeah, I was that weird teenager, but yeah,
Mm,
and then like yeah, I guess leading to like university and such. I didn't notice it in university really at all, but like in university after 2016, my friend circle in like real life, like in person, crashed and burned. I had no one.
mhm.
So then it became really like I was just like, cool, like we're gonna hang out and talk on like on Skype like we are right now and like watch animes and chat while we're at school. And that was that. That was just kind of like, well, this is our thing. And that's all I really felt about it for quite a while. But now, uh, some kind of. I know he has a lot more to talk about university, so I'm going to let him do that in a bit. But I'm just going to finish my bit because it's really quick.
Right.
Now, with thanks to me being quite present on social media and everywhere, like online, it's amazing to see how many of these people that I knew in like high school or middle school, and like the people that, the same very people that judged me for it, are now watching these things. I had a
Mhm.
friend the other day, by the way, Spam, that
Oh, really?
shared a link to the Way of the House Husband on Facebook, and it was someone I did not expect to watch anime at all in my life, and I was like, oh my god,
Dude.
this stupid anime is bringing everyone into anime again. And it's so true though. There's like that one anime that you see every couple years that gets posted everywhere, and you're like, whoa, wait, this kid's watching that?
No, I can't wait to like eventually like yeah, I'll get to my like my university and then eventually talk about like what's going on now in terms of like anime because it's like, oh my God, it has become I would say this now and just like spoiler alert and how I see it, but I feel like anime has definitely become the next mainstream thing to watch. I mean, because of Crunchyroll, because of Netflix, because of many of the services, and then eventually like some TV networks are kind of picking it up in a way. They just start showing it, and then it's just becoming more readily available. More people see it. More people see something very interesting. It's like, ooh, I'll give it a watch. Ooh, I'll watch the recommended, and then suddenly they became an anime fan.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like it's funny now that we are going through like our lives basically with anime. Man, we would have had, I'm not gonna say like being a teenager nowadays would be fun, or even in university would be fun right now with what's going on in the world, but it would have been so cool to have like that kind of, what is it, like perception of anime back then. It would have been way
I
fun. It would have been
like
so much
I
more fun.
if it would have been if like yeah. So I guess I could talk about like heading towards university and whatnot. Again, if you want to know the animes I've watched, watch the episode like 2 episodes ago of
Yeah.
the whole list. But I just remembered all throughout college, I was getting more and more into the internet, more and more into just what using YouTube, Google, all that fun stuff, and then just really getting to watch anime because it was college. There was no particular cliques that were like back in high school or anything like that. You're on your own, unless if you had with friends along the way that you've had in high school or created in college. You'll share those certain like um characteristic styles and whatnot and also I guess your tastes in anime, so that's where I started like expanding more into different types of anime from friends, from other colleagues and whatnot, and then realizing that it's just growing, like it's getting there's more and more anime coming out, there's more and more genres, and everything is like very not cringy, I'd say. No lie, I would say back in the early like the mid 2000s and the early 2010s, it's probably like the grand scheme of all like the grand not scheme grand like the big
Like,
grand all of like the pioneering of anime. It was like at its peak. It was a bit cringy in terms of a normal's views, like a normal person's eye view words.
Dragon Ball Z, for example, in my opinion. But anyway, sorry.
Right, like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Lucky Stars, I'll call it Email, all that's like all that anime. Like I've heard of it, and as a person back, as someone back in early high school, yeah, I found it cringy just a wee bit because early early internet memes were great. Not really early internet, but like the prime internet, I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
where it went downhill. But just seeing all that, it was like, yeah, like I didn't find interest back then, but then in college I did like I started finding more interest, and so I kind of like did a look back and then start watching Korean anime. I just keep watching and just not caring about if you like anime or not. If you do, awesome. What anime are you watching? I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious. Like I want to expand my horizons. If not, oh well. But if you look like the person that wants to get into anime, I have a couple recommendations. I won't give you like the hardcore ones because that'd be dumb. But there was like a couple that I found new entrances into anime where it is a lot easier to enter than back then.
Yeah, I think just because of like how, also we didn't have a lot of variety of it back then either.
No.
It was like whatever was aired on TV. And so North America being very far away from Japan, obviously, though, um, it just, we didn't get a lot of like the typical like big things really. We had like our North American stuff, and then we had like the special like Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, like the few things there from like 4Kids and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But
Right.
nowadays, there's so much out there to watch suddenly. Like if you go on Crunchyroll right now and just click on that alphabetical like way to organize things, oh my god. You'll be going through those
But
pages for like 10, 15 minutes.
yeah.
Same with like Funimation and Verve and all those others. Like you will be on there for a while and there's so much suddenly that we have access to.
Hmm.
And I think that's also what's really great about it because then now it's like, well, like if you just talk to anyone, like, hey, what do you like to watch? And as they describe something, there's probably an anime out there for them. Easily.
Actually, yeah, no, like back then, it's like you either watch the big stuff or you're weird and watching the small things. And I'm granted, there's probably a lot of good series during the mid late 2000s and early 2010s, aside from the ones we've mentioned, that are probably better than that. But the only things it's like you don't really have decent access to it unless if you really want to go through Kiss Anime back then. And I think back then, the internet was very, very ooh. Not as much as like now, but back then, internet was very ooh. You have to be very careful what you're doing.
Yeah.
But like, you just say the access was very limited, so hence why there was always that negative stigma. It's like if you watch anime, oh, it's a cartoon. Ah, you're a kid. Ah, you're a nerd. Ew, no, get away from that sort of deal.
But now
But
it's
now it's
like,
like,
oh, you
yeah.
watch so oh, you're watching that. Like I've seen conversations on Facebook. Like someone will share like an Attack on Titan meme. That's all they're sharing on Facebook right now, by the way, because Attack on Titan is recently has ended. So yay, thanks Facebook for all the Attack on Titan. But I'll see some of my friends that like I worked with who are suddenly sharing like these Attack on Titan memes, and they were never the type that I thought would get into it because they were like your hardcore like heavy metal music listeners and all that kind of stuff. And it just goes to show you that even your own perceptions of people, like it's not healthy to have a constant stigma around people anymore
Mhm.
because these barriers are being constantly broken down through like every little thing. I have like hardcore like was in a rock band people like watching anime that they used to tease me about.
Right.
It's just like you can't really, and like I think this is like the big overall like message I wanted to kind of get to at this is like having stigmas is not okay. Take the time to really, before you judge it, dive into it, look into it, see what it's about. Then you can make your judgment. But
Yeah.
until you actually look into something like anime or gaming or D&D, my examples are all things I love, so sorry.
Hmm.
But until you really look into this thing and try to understand why someone would like it or can like it,
Hmm.
don't judge it.
Definitely.
Don't judge it
And
till you
all
try it.
definitely. And you know what? I will like add upon this. I would say it is a hell of a lot easier to jump into anything now, like anime, D&D, gaming, streaming, YouTubing, vlogging, whatever like that, right? It's so much easier to get into it now than it was back a decade ago.
Yeah.
So just like a decade ago, there was a lot of stigmas in terms of doing this, doing that, because it's not the norm. It wasn't part of the norm. But because the internet grew, everything was made readily available to everyone. It became the new norm, and look where we're at.
Yeah. To
So,
give you an example, guys, download a dating app and you'd be surprised at how many potential matches you'll run into that actually have people that state they like to game and watch anime. Makes my day, man, when I see something like that, because it's like, they're out there.
right?
There are people like me on this dating app. Because again, there's also stigmas around dating apps. So we're not getting into a whole episode about that. But basically, I'm just showing this as an example, right?
Hmm.
Where you think you join a dating app and all you're gonna meet are people that want hookups or people that want just friends with benefits or or
Right.
like it's all these pretty people, thin, beautiful like people on there. Sure, there's still that out there, but every once in a while you'll come across a profile. You're like, gaming, anime, likes to read books, listens to music, and likes Jane Austen. And then like it starts to feel good. So like even there's it's just amazing to see like what can be out there and what's out there.
Right. And yeah, like, and if you have like, there's like a famous figure that like is doing something odd or watching anime, but they're like part of like action movies and whatnot, you know what? That's them because they managed to like look into it finally
Yeah,
and sort of do it. It's like
that
they
is like
they.
we were talking about Vic, right?
Hmm.
Like the voice actor for many animes, he plays D&D. So like it's really cool. That's how I got into D&D a little bit. Is realizing that these people that have like hundreds of thousands of followers are playing
Hmm.
D&D. What? That's crazy. And then I've D&D. I can't believe I'm bringing D&D into this, but I am. But it's just so cool to
Right.
see that like all these famous people are actually like sitting down and enjoying a hobby that they've rediscovered or that they used to be judged for. Like Matthew Mercer has talked many times about being bullied for being this nerdy cosplayer kid in school, and now it's a very acceptable, normal thing, and it's so
Mm.
true.
Yeah, like I would say everyone is lucky nowadays to be more than ever to be as expressive as they can compared to back then. You don't get as judged now, unlike back then. The stigmas, all that stuff, it's like, that was very big, rampant, and whatnot, where you just end up being in that sort of clique. And I'm pretty sure it's kind of there too in terms of like the teenage kind of sort of things. Like if you guys are in like high school or anything, if you guys are listening to this and in high school or like that, feel free to comment that if to see if that stigma still stands, where like, there's a certain sort of like negative stigma on a couple things where there'll be a clique that would just want to not talk about it or make fun of it versus
Yeah.
like all that fun stuff.
And
Um,
adults, we want to hear from you too, man, because you've grown up in our day and age. It makes us feel old. I know we're not that old, but
whether younger or whether older.
like comment too, because it really is interesting to see everyone's perspective on this. Because again, trying to erase that stigma is super important, and I think there's
Mhm.
been a lot done thanks to again all these famous people becoming role models for us like nerdy kids finally in our adult
Right.
years going, oh my god, wait a minute, he plays D&D. And suddenly we
Yeah.
have these people, oh my god, wait a minute, she's a huge anime fan, like what? And suddenly we have these people popping up and we're like, oh my god, we were meant to exist. We are meant to have these interests and we can have these interests. It's okay.
Mm.
So I'm
Definitely.
basically, my last words here before we wrap it up is it's okay to like what you like. If you love anime, own it.
Yeah, actually, like if you want to dive into anime, go at it. There's a lot out there. I'm pretty sure someone in your family or friends has a Netflix account, maybe has a Crunchyroll or Verve account or a Funimation account. Steal their credentials, watch a couple anime, see if you like any of it. And if you do, awesome. More power to you. Watch the big ones, watch the small ones. There's a lot out there compared to especially since a decade ago. You guys definitely have it easy, but I also applaud that as well, that it is definitely easy to just be able to watch anime now
Yeah,
and get into anime.
and if you are still afraid, like let's say the stigma still exists in your family, or it's still something that's around you personally. Comment below some of the things you like what shows do you like? You like things with a lot of action, drama, whatever. List them below. We'll help you find one.
Yeah, and if not, there'll be also be commenters down there to help you out as well, because I'm pretty sure we've had our fair share of like likes of anime. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a spread. I'm pretty sure the whole internet has a spread of what they like. So feel free.
Yes. Okay, that is really us going through the stigmas around anime throughout the years and how it's slowly and surely just really getting better.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's my final conclusion. We're finally in a place where us anime peoples, we are cool now. Yeah.
We are the norm.
We're normal. You're not. Just kidding. Don't do that. No judgments, no stigmas. Erase them, get rid of them. Not needed in society. Anyway, yeah. Thank you, Stan, for being my guest and sharing a lot of anime with me the last few weeks. Thank you.
I think this was like again one of our more rambly episodes compared to the other two. I mean, sure, we had enough ramble like in the past too, but this one's like definitely a ramble because the whole subject, like the stigma of things, is like basically talking about our timeline, but it's like it really shows where we're coming from, and it's just been fun to like finally talk it out because God. to know that we're in our late 20s and then talking about anime, it's still great.
If you would have told 10-year-old me that we would be doing this today, they would have been like, no.
Oh, 20-year-old me, same. I'd say even like just like when I'm in my just turned 20, I was
Yeah,
like, really? I would talk about anime? No. I'd watch it, but that's it.
exactly. So things like this is so good. Having a podcast to have like talk these things out and be open about it is so good. So
Yes, definitely.
it's been a lot of fun. We are finally wrapping up the topic of anime. Unless I surprise you next week with something else, you never know. But
Done.
and I think this might be our last one. I was very tempted to do an anime's like openings and endings like talk, but I think that one would be a very rambly one, and a lot of
Mhm.
research would have to go into it because I'm really bad at names and stuff. But uh, I'll end it there though. So go check out all of Spam's things in the description below. He does a lot of rambly vlogs himself, and
I'm
he's
very
going on a trip.
rambalicious.
You are. He's going on a trip soon, so he'll be vlogging about that, and we really need to watch.
Yeah.
So go check out all that stuff below. And as for me, my stuff is there too, I guess, if you want to look at that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed your drinks by the fire, enjoyed our rambles, our stories, and I'll see you in whatever we do next.
Definitely.
Alrighty, bye bye, guys.
Bye.